Behind every face and every action, there's a name. And the search for those names, well, that's where these stories begin. I'm Fox 4 Senior Reporter Kaitlin Knapp, and I'm on a mission to get to know the names we know and perhaps find the ones we don't. Along with detectives working in the same communities you call home, we're all working to find answers and closure in these sunshine crimes. Not all of these cases are necessarily crimes. Some are people that have been found but have no name. So the students here at Ringling College in Sarasota are trying to put a name to the face. And the common theme here is all of the faces, well, their remains were found in Southwest Florida. Everyone starts their life with a name, but some are lost.
These are victims, these are the nameless, the forgotten, the skulls, the coldest of the cold cases.
One man is on a mission to find those names again. His name is Joe Mullins, a forensic imaging specialist at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. His goal?
I don't want any skulls sitting on shelves.
The shelves of medical examiners' offices around the country. But a 3D image of the ones you're seeing here for the first time are all from right here in Southwest Florida.
From the District 21 Fort Myers Medical Examiner's Office.
Mullins made a cold call to the office, asking them for access to the skulls.
Have to get the skulls. Now, once we have the skulls, we need to take photographs of the skulls, then have the forensic anthropologist look at the skulls.
Then, Ringling College in Sarasota did a 3D print of each skull. It's at that college where those skulls have a chance of getting their name back.
Another mission for this class is to clear the shelves of ME's offices across the U.S.
Mullins is also an adjunct professor at New York Academy of Art, bringing his experience to Ringling's classroom, giving students an opportunity to bring a family closure.
This is the first face I've ever sculpted.
Each person signed up for the workshop got a case.
My person was found in 2016 in Lee County.
And artists like Junior Noah Shadowins works off the information from their assigned case.
The only thing I have to work with is that he was an Asian male, age range 18 to 45. So that is a very large age gap.
Over 5 days, they are turning the skulls into a facial approximation. In other words, a person.
Every skull that they have is now in this room getting the, dignity of a face back.
Faces being molded using talent and science.
We stick markers on the skull, and then we sculpt our tissue, our muscle, and our flesh out to those markers.
And over 5 days,
you are slowly building a person that is going to stare back at you.
A person waiting to get their name back.
It's not a skull anymore, now it's a person. And they are emotionally invested.
And now I hope somebody can recognize them.
Now that the skulls have faces, let's talk about where they came from. Hendrick County deputies found this man in 1978 in LaBelle, and they believe he was a migrant worker. Glades County deputies found this man's remains in Moorhaven in 1980. And this is someone I've reported on before. The York Island Jane Doe, found off of St. James City in 1995. Deputies found these remains at Bonita Springs near Bonita Beach Road, east of Vincent Road in 2010. In 2011, deputies found a man's remains in Hendry County, possibly a migrant worker. The last cold case, someone tried to sell a skull on Craigslist in 2016 in Lee County. It's not clear when this person died.
The more eyes that see these facial approximations, the better. But now we have pictures of what these people look like in life.
Again, the artist received the skulls from 11 Southwest Florida cases. 6 of them are active investigations, while the other 5 are considered frozen. On Tuesday at 10, my conversation with Mullins continues about those frozen cases and what it means for the people who still don't have a name. To get a look at the faces you saw in this story, head to fox4now.com. And if you recognize any of them, call police. In studio, Kaitlin Knapp, Fox 4. Not every cold case starts with a murder and ends with the search for a killer. This one is about the kidnapping of 3-week-old baby Brian 18 years ago. He's an adult now, and Fort Myers cold case detectives believe that he's still out there, somewhere, alive. On November 3rd, 2006, Maria dos Santos Ramos brought baby Brian into the world.
He's their first child.
But not even a month later,
their entire world was just shattered.
On December 1st, baby Brian, Maria, her friend Janice, and her baby girl walked to the Family Health Center in Fort Myers before heading to this bus stop on Cleveland and Edison. Out of nowhere, a black SUV pulled up.
This is where the unsubs vehicle came in to stop and ask them for directions.
Unsub, or the unidentified subject, was a woman who asked how to get to Pine Manor. Fort Myers cold case detective Richard Harrison and Michael Iarossi say the women were offered money to help, but they said no.
They both get on the bus, and according to them, they get off at the bus stop at Linhart.
Not too far behind, the same SUV came from the opposite direction. The detectives say it was a 98 or 99 black Ford Explorer.
But I wouldn't know why the unsub would know that they would get off this particular bus stop, unless she was following the bus.
Harrison says the woman then followed them here.
And this was their house, 43.
She asked them, again, to help her get to Pine Manor.
Both women, Janice and Maria, get into the back seat of the SUV with their children.
As they were driving, the woman told Maria and Janice she gave birth to a baby boy 11 days ago. But was it true? Well, Harrison says there was a car seat, a diaper, and a teddy bear in the SUV.
She says that her baby boy's name is Jose Guadalupe, and the baby's being kept at a home in Pine Manor where her mother lives. However, she doesn't know where that house is.
At one point, the woman used Janice's phone. She said she needed to call her mom, but Harrison says that was a ruse.
That phone call later on is found to go to what's called a poll room, where people congregate who are landscapers or working irrigation.
She left 2 voicemails, and when they got to Pine Manor, they drove around, but didn't find the house the woman claimed to be looking for. So the driver took Maria and Janice back home. Harrison says Janice and her daughter were told to get out.
Maria is told to stay in the car with baby Brian. Then the woman takes off and makes a right.
Janice frantically flagged down a father and son who followed the SUV, but ended up losing them in traffic. The SUV was caught once on camera here, going south on Cleveland, before it stopped at this Estero church.
She says that the unsub has a knife in her hand and threatens to hurt her if she doesn't get out of the car.
Maria got out, and the woman gave her 5 quarters to make a call so she can get home. Home without baby Brian. In a second, he was gone, and that's where the manhunt for Brian began.
Some of the characteristics of this case are extraordinary.
There was a lot of speculation in this case. Theories the detectives say could get in the way of a good investigation. Is there any reason to believe that baby Brian was targeted?
We don't know that. We know back in 2006, they both, the mother and father, did come into the country via coyotes.
But they question why coyotes would kidnap a baby. Beyond the theories, the detectives say they're sticking to what they do know. Remember that name, Jose Guadalupe? The woman said that was her baby's name.
We feel as though there's a nexus between her making this telephone call to the pole shed. One of the people who actually stayed and lived at a house next to that pole shed, his name was Jose Guadalupe.
The man who lived there has a son who worked at the pole shed.
We suspect that whoever may be involved in this may have some type of connection to shore irrigation.
What the connection is, well, that's what detectives are trying to figure out.
Again, we enhanced the voice message that was left.
They're also looking to identify her, the woman who Maria says kidnapped Brian. Detectives are also looking at prior kidnappings around the country.
This helps us gauge what we're looking for and, has someone done it before?
There's reason to believe this woman did in Fort Myers. That's because the same day Brian was kidnapped, another woman reported a similar crime. A woman in a black SUV went up to her and asked for directions, but she did not get in the car. And remember those quarters? Well, the detectives are sending them off to test for DNA, along with Maria's dress. But the main goal, find baby Brian.
We haven't uncovered anything that says Brian is deceased.
An age progression photo from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children shows what he may have looked like at 14. Now, they're working on a new one, 18-year-old Brian. Iarossi has this message for Brian, who is hopefully still out there watching this.
Your family is here. They love you, they miss you, and they want nothing more than to reunite.
We're not going to give up.
Detectives say if Brian takes an ancestry test, he would pop into the system As for those enhanced messages and the new picture of Brian, well, we're still waiting for those to be released, and I'll bring that to you when I do get those. But for now, if you know anything about the kidnapping of 3-week-old baby Brian, you're asked to call Fort Myers Police. In Estero, Kaitlin Knapp, Fox 4. Pine Island, a small fishing town where you can almost always find anglers on the water. But one day, 4 fishermen hooked the beginnings of a gruesome mystery.
October 7th, 1995.
That's the day Lee County Sheriff Carmine Marcino says right off of York Island in St. James City, the anglers pulled up to a red sleeping bag.
Inside was a body. It was decomposed.
A sinister discovery with not much for detectives to go on.
Jane Doe, 35 to 45 years old, 115 pounds approximately, with brown blonde hair.
Just like today, the medical examiner did an autopsy. Marcino says because she had been in the water for 3 or 4 weeks, they could not tell how she died, only that someone killed her. But he says one thing stood out.
In the skull, there were staples. It was a very unique surgery that was performed. Only 1,000 doctors worldwide would be able to do that surgery.
And to this day, detectives are still trying to figure out where she had the surgery. They're also digging for other potential clues.
Looking for DNA, looking for dental records, looking for any lead that we have. So it's piecing things back and looking for that one detail, that one break in the case.
And all of that evidence sits here at the Lee County Sheriff's Office Forensic Center. And they gave me exclusive access inside, showing me the evidence that they have to work with to identify the Jane Doe.
But our detectives are in the detailed minutiae every single day.
Yes.
Detectives like Sergeant Robert Patton of LCSO's Homicide Unit.
A lot of people haven't seen this.
This, the red sleeping bag she was found in. Evidence the sheriff's office is using to hopefully solve the case. Evidence you are seeing for the first time.
The barnacles that were found were probably 20 to 28 days in nature.
Evidence that gets even more disturbing.
This is the battery that the rope was attached to the sleeping bag holding her down.
Sheriff Marcino says it's a common 63-pound battery.
Generally, a 3-volt battery is what you use for a golf cart.
Or possibly for a sailboat. In this case, detectives say it was used to weigh Jane Doe down in the water. How do you think she got there? We just truly don't know.
We don't know.
And there are more mysteries.
This is what she was found wearing at the time.
Maroon scrubs from the Charleston, South Carolina VA hospital. But LCSO says there was no one there who knew Jane Doe.
So we don't know if it's something that was picked up at a thrift store or secondhand.
Jane Doe was also wearing this ring and a broken watch, frozen in time. September 25th at 12:50. As time passed, Marcino says detectives are relying on new technology to help identify her. They came up with these sketches in 2019, and in 2021, they say a new DNA profile for genealogy testing tied Jane Doe to some potential distant family members in Orangeburg, South Carolina. That's about a 90-minute drive north of the VA hospital.
So recently, we sent DNA out to the lab again, and we're hoping that it comes back with some kind of direction, some kind of hit to give us another clue in this case.
The help can also come from you. Marcino realizes Jane Doe was found so long ago, but he's optimistic.
Someone knows something.
An optimism that echoes inside the department and in the minds of the detectives who hope to bring some closure to the York Island Jane Doe.
Every single day, they work it like 1 second ago for closure.
She's a person. Was somebody's family member. And we're not going to stop until we find out what happened and answer all those questions of who she is and how did she come about in that location and ultimately her demise.
It's a crime described as brutal, the brutal murder of a woman. But not just any woman, 84-year-old Eileen Seymour, who was living in a FEMA trailer lot in DeSoto County. And we only have one photo of her. But that one photo, well, once you see it, it's hard to get out of your head. The city of Arcadia, an area with a historic downtown antique district. A town that was ravaged in 2004. Hurricane Charlie destroyed homes and sent battered people with no place to go
into FEMA trailers. And it was in one of those trailers where this story begins.
When you first read this case file, what was your initial reaction to what happened?
Brutal and senseless.
The brutal and senseless murder of a woman whose picture, the only one we have of her, well, it'll be hard to get out of your head. This is Eileen Seymour. On March 2nd, 2006, DeSoto County Sheriff James F. Potter says deputies found Eileen in her FEMA trailer, dead.
A very a brutal crime scene.
She was raped, beaten, and strangled.
The wounds to her arms, her head, that you could see from the photographs.
Detectives found this antique tea pitcher. The dent and the blood on it told them it was a murder weapon. The other weapon, the one they didn't have, the hands of the killer. Sheriff Potter says finding that person has been incredibly difficult.
The lack of information of anybody, obviously no eyewitness.
No witness, but there was evidence. Clues that detectives have been sending to labs with the hope of cracking the case wide open. A case Potter wasn't around for, but someone else was.
I had the opportunity to sit down with Eileen's daughter.
Southwest Florida Crime Stoppers manager Trish Rout remembers Eileen's case vividly. She says Eileen survived cancer 4 times and was a mom.
There's just no words to describe the horrendous viciousness of an attack of a very innocent little old lady who meant no harm to anybody.
Shortly after the murder, Trish talked to Eileen's daughter. And while she couldn't find the video, Trish was able to find a transcript of what Eileen's daughter said.
Whoever did this was the spawn of the devil. She's an 84-year-old woman who was as helpless as a baby.
A woman found in her trailer on a lot now an RV park that Brian Shaper owns. And though her murder happened 18 years ago, this picture,
it was really haunting.
Well, it's made a lasting impression on some people.
The lady looked like just a sweet grandmother, so it just seemed eerie.
An eerie feeling for Shaper. But the feeling is different for detectives. They are determined to find her killer and bring Eileen's family and this community closure.
When you look at her and you see, just imagine your grandmother, and you see that older lady there, it just reaches down and pulls on the heartstrings.
18 years later, here we are 18 years later, and her attacker is still out there.
If you have any information about Eileen's case, you're asked to call the DeSoto County Sheriff's Office or Southwest Florida Crime Stoppers. In DeSoto County, Kaitlin Knapp, Fox 4.